All right.
Hey guys, it's Kenzie. Welcome to the Team Sizzle this week. We have our famous Dana on to tell us how to listen to the whisper of our bodies. Oh, Dana, I'm gonna let you take it away.
All righty. Okay, so this is one thing that I personally had to spend a lot of time figuring out for myself. And I try to teach it to my patients and my team as much as I can. There's just so many different things that we need to be paying attention to know how to help ourselves. So first things first is, how do you figure out if what the voice that you're listening to is helpful and beneficial or not, right? Because sometimes, it's like people say, oh, just, go with whatever you gravitate towards. Well, sorry, sometimes I really gravitate towards wanting chocolate and ice cream all day. And that's not beneficial to myself. So yeah, so it's like deciding, okay, is this a good thing or not a good thing? And is this what I need and is this what I not need? Now, right, when I use the example of chocolate, there can be a reason for that. It's because you probably have a mineral deficiency. So hence the reason a lot of women crave chocolate during their cycle, because they're losing blood, they're losing minerals. So it does biologically make sense. It's just finding the best source for it. And it's the same way with oils. So the way I like to phrase it and the way I like to think about it when evaluating what to use, what I need, and even just life choices, right? Do I take this job? Do I take that job? Just some of those kinds of things with my kids, do I want to, do I want to have them, participate in this or not, right? Like all the parenting choices, there's always choices that we have to make, and where are they coming from? So the way I think of it is that I try to take as much time as I can to make some of the bigger decisions. And sometimes, right, with oils, we just need to like be in the spur of the moment and just, I need to grab something, I'm on my way. But what kinds of things can we do to help and support ourselves listening to that nudge? And I like to think of that nudge as the Holy Spirit. Sometimes, right, do I strike up the conversation with the person in the grocery line or not? Things like that. So one of the ways that oils work, so I realize that some people don't know this well, and I'll teach it as best as I can, but how they work on a vibrational level, okay? So all of the different oils have what's called a note. So you've got a top note, and then middle notes and base notes. And the way that the body works, right, you're kind of going to gravitate towards something sometimes, right? So there's just going to be something that you're drawn to. And it's kind of interesting because I realize that, there's certain times that I'm drawn towards one thing more than another and all of those kinds of things. But it's also important to balance them out. So with that, I held out a couple of my books here. So with that being said, right? Okay, so me, for an example, I deal with a lot of anger. It's stuff that I work through, but, anger is one of the big ones for me. So when you think about, okay, what oil do you want to use, right? Console and forgive. Those are kind of some of the big ones that pop up when you're looking at emotional blends. But I pulled out my book. Yeah, I still have the old copy. So pulled up the book, and you look up anger, maybe, in the back. And you see the oils that are listed under anger, okay? You've got cardamom, thyme, geranium, ylang-ylang, and a few others. So when you look these up in the back of the book, vibrationally, all of the oils that are listed under anger are all going to be middle and base notes. And that might be something that you really need. That might be a weakness that you need to address. But when you're diffusing and things like that, it's also really helpful and beneficial to look to the opposite. So not only sticking with the anger, because I would find myself just doing that for too long. So look towards the opposite. And so I looked up cheerful, okay? Every single one of the cheerful oils was a top note. Okay, so then from there, right, I look at that list of the anger oils and I'm like, okay, out of this list, the ones that I gravitate towards the most are cardamom and geranium. So I'm doing a class right now. Love you. Okay. So I gravitate more towards the cardamom and geranium. So I'm going to go with those. I have most of the other ones, but that's just kind of my preference, because when you're dealing with emotions, you want a smell that you're going to like, right? Because I mean, for me, ylang ylang is not bad, but it's not my favorite. So if I want something that's going to help me feel better, I want to pick an oil that I like the smell of. And by the way, I used to hate geranium. I opened that when I first got it and I was like, oh my gosh. And now it's one of my favorites. So it's a little bit one of those things where as you balance yourself out vibrationally, your body is going to start to appreciate things more than others. Does that make sense at all? Okay. So just kind of a note on the notes, to just be aware of that and be cognizant of what you're feeling, but also realize that, okay, you're angry, but we also want to bring in some of the opposite as well. Okay. So I talked about vibrational. The other thing that they do is they help to balance us out chemically. So in that respect, you want to look at, and there's some people that actually test oils and supplements this way, based on the pull of the ions. So, right, we have ions in our bodies. We have a positive, negative balance with all the cells in our bodies and everything that's happening. And you can, some people do this. I don't like to do it, but it's worth a shot. Why not? You know, you can grab, you know, a bottle of supplements or whatever and kind of hold it to your chest and stand still. And if you lean backwards, it's your body's way of trying to get away from it, that it doesn't want that. And if you lean forwards, it's your body leaning in to try and get it closer and get more of it. It's not super scientific yet. It's not how I test supplements on my patients. I do it different, but it's worth a shot. You know, I mean, if you're kind of sitting here going, okay, this is what I have, what's going to be best for me? You know, maybe you're running low on supplements, right? Like for me, towards the end of the month, some months, you know, I mean, like right now, I was kind of waiting for December. So I'm like, I'm getting low on my turmeric. I'm getting low on my copaiba soft gels. So I'm like, I don't want to take all of them every day. But if I want to take one, you know, I'll probably, you know, maybe check that on myself and just kind of hold it there and see which way that I go. So that's one way that you can check things that way. So another thing that you can do, I mean, it's not necessarily listening to the voice within, but it's interesting. I don't have them, but the Itovi and the Zytoscans, they intrigued me because the Zytoscan that I had nailed me 110%. And I didn't have all of the oils that it suggested that I needed. But when I went back and I read like the emotional aspect and the physical aspect of the oils that it printed out for me, it was pretty accurate. So, and so the ones that I had were some of the ones that I'd been using. So like tangerine was my top one, and I had been using that one quite a bit. So it was just interesting to know that, okay, the body is attracted to what it needs. So keeping that in mind, you know, I mean, if you have access to some of those scans, maybe try them out and see. And you can even try out on yourself too, right? Kind of doing that, you know, test thing. If you have one of those scans, just be like, I wonder if this is, you know, good or not, and hold it close and see which way you gravitate towards. And again, right, with some of those things that you gravitate towards, there may be weaknesses in other systems of the body that you're not aware of. Okay, so that's one that, hang on, let me look at my notes because I don't want to go too much out of order here. Talked about that. Okay, so for that, you're going to look to what you're drawn to, and you're going to go based on that. Whoops. But you're also going to look at systems, because there are other ways that your body is trying to communicate to you. One of those ways is your sleep patterns and your energy throughout the day, right? Because there's lots of things that people are just like, oh, you know, when you hit that wall in the middle of the afternoon, you know, just use some peppermint and wild orange and breathe it in, and that'll just give you energy to get through the day. And those are great. Those are symptoms. But if that's a chronic thing for you every day, there's ways to check it, and there's ways to support it and try and reverse it. Same thing is if you wake up at certain times during the night, oh, guys, seriously, why is my phone low battery? Okay, hang on. I'm having technology issues if you can't tell. So another way to do that is to, hang on, let me do this. Multitasking is not my favorite thing to do right now. So let me just plug in. Okay. I'm going to try it that way, I think. Is that okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. To find out what system is at a weak or a high point that time of day. So I just had a class tonight, and we were talking about stress, sleep, and emotions. So when we were talking about the sleep part, there were 2 people there that they're like, literally wake up 3:20 every single morning on the dot, no matter what. Sometimes they can get back to sleep. Sometimes it takes them 2 hours. Okay, but it's that 2 hours waking up at 3 o'clock that tells me they have an acupuncture meridian deficiency. So I'll take a picture of this and I'll post it for you guys. You've got this lovely clock right here that tells you the times that body systems are high or low, their energy source. So for that example, so they said 3:20 in the morning, lung is supposed to be at its peak from 3 to 5 a.m. Now you look at the opposite, bladder is supposed to be the opposite from 3 to 5. Both of them said they wake up at 3:20 and have to go to the bathroom, right? That's a bladder meridian issue. So you look at that. So then what can you do to address that, okay? So everybody's like, oh, use Serenity, use Copaiba, use Vetiver, diffuse these, diffuse these, diffuse these. But when there's a chronic thing, that's the body's way of saying, no, you're doing these things because they're falling asleep fine. They sleep great up until then. For that 2-hour window, they don't sleep. So that means you need to address the weakness during that 2-hour window, which is going to be bladder. So you're going to want to look at doing some things, hauling out oils that support the kidneys and the bladder. Bladder, kidneys, a good one is 100% pure cranberry juice too. So, just some of those kinds of things. But that's true throughout the day as well. Some people kind of have a burst of energy in the evening for a little while, right? Like before bed, they're like, I just don't know why. Or like in the kids too, in your kids, right? Be like, man, all of a sudden, we have dinner, everything's calming down, and then they just kind of get the zoomies for a little while, and they go, and then boom, they crash at like 9 o'clock. Well, that's going to be either a stomach or reproductive issue. Okay, so just those kinds of things. So you're going to look at oils to support those systems, and not necessarily always going to, not that they're bad, but necessarily relying on the sleep relaxation calming oils. Does that make sense? It's confusing. I can't see everybody from my phone. So if somebody's like, what the heck is she talking about? I can't tell. So Kenzie, you're going to have to tell me. You're the only one I can see.
We're doing good.
Okay. All right. So then kind of on that same note is the pain issue, right? Pain is a thing that a lot of people talk about. And people are just like, yeah, this spot on my leg, or this spot on my knee, or this spot here, this shoulder, blah, 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 blah. But the typical pain stuff doesn't help. Okay. Again, you're going to look towards internal organ systems. You're going to want to pull up acupuncture meridian body maps. Okay. So, because I had somebody at one point, had a patient in, and he was like, oh my goodness, I think I adjusted like his foot or his ankle or something like that. And he's like, holy cow. He's like, I felt that, like literally. And he traced a line all the way up his leg. And I just kind of smiled and laughed because I knew it was an acupuncture meridian thing. And what I didn't know was that that had been a normal area where there was like issues and pain and stuff, but some people forget things and don't always mention them all the time. So, I mean, you might have like weird spots that you just think, oh my God, it's so random. Why do I have pain there? Well, check it out. Okay. So, and you can pull these up online too. You can just look up, but you know, you can see here, I mean, here's a picture of one of them. I don't know if you can see that or not. Maybe. Yes, no.
Yeah.
So this one is the large intestine meridian. Okay. It goes through the arm. So sometimes maybe you're having pain in your shoulder or in your not cleaning up by using glue and all these things. Maybe you need to do something to address and support the large intestine instead. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so it's looking at your body.
You're lagging just a little bit, Dana.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you're caught up now. It was just on my end. You were just lagging.
Maybe.
Dana, can I ask a question?
Yup.
Okay. I have this spot of eczema on the inside of my right middle finger, and all the things are not getting rid of it. Just like you said, like we're talking about, we're going on like 2 months now. And I know it has to be something else related. So give it a go. And if I cry, then that's it. You figured it out. Good.
Okay, so guys, you're asking me to check all my meridian mats because I don't have meridian systems memorized. You said middle finger?
It's the inside of my middle finger.
On the palm side, the back side?
My right hand, which I know. Yep, palm side. Like I know a little bit to know that like it's masculine dominance and it's, you know, that I'm afraid to do things and I feel like my work isn't effective. Like I know all those things. It just is more specific. Yeah.
So that is a reproductive issue. It's circulation sex meridian. That spot, I mean, maybe not like 100%. It's between points 8 and 9. Yeah. So that's going to be the tonification point that it needs support of some sort. So yeah. So you're going to look to reproductive support oils. So try. And then you've got me. I'd be like, well, you need to get adjusted and blah, 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 all the things. But so there she goes. So.
I have one on my elbow, right on the elbow, 2 spots. I've just gotten them in the past, 6 months. And they too, it's eczema and nothing is helping.
Yep. So that's going to be the posterior elbow is going to be the triple heater, which is kind of one of your 2 main, you've got your triple heater and triple warmer. It's very similar. You're going to lean towards the reproductive oils for that one as well. It's just a little, and those points specifically. So yours is going to be, so Amanda's was a tonification point. Yours is going to be a sedation point where yours needs to be calmed and settled. Hers needs to get more attention into the system.
Are you saying I need to get laid? I'm sorry, Dana.
Right? Is Mike on the call? Because I just told him he had to.
I'm sure that's what Mike heard.
Nothing like getting it on real. All right, guys. Everyone knows their homework assignment.
I know, right? Oh, man.
That's funny.
So, yeah.
Are you open to taking some more questions like that, Dana?
Yeah. Let me just see if I'm like done with some of this stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying at the end when you are. Because I think there's some more people on here that want to check the chat.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll let you keep going, and then I'm going to stop the recording while people ask their question.
Yep. No, the only other thing that I had on my notes that I was going to talk about was 2 different kind of systems that you can look at, okay, to kind of balance out the whole body. And those are going to be your chakras. Okay. You know, I mean, you're going to want to look at some of those kinds of issues, you know, some of the oils, and they're in some of the books. They address some of the chakras in there as well, as far as how to help them. And then the other one that I use more than chakras is, you know, I mean, the system that I'm writing, the how to oil your armor, and looking to, you know, balance out and have something that addresses each piece of armor, for the armor of God, that protects all of the systems in the body. So yeah, so that's kind of what I look toward, you know, because the armor looks at, you know, I mean, it's got the, you know, the emotional, mental protection with a helmet. The shield is going to be more of like your on guard, and, you know, those kind of immune protectors, and, you know, digestive and reproductive and all the things. So yeah. So
I've got a general question.
Sure.
How can you tell whether your pain is, your physical pain is emotional, or if it's just a physical pain? How can you tell?
Well, where's the pain? That's going to be the first question.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, you're going to look at where's the pain coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I mean, for me, I look at that, and I look at what organ system is affected by that. So you've got, you know, I mean, okay, let's just say you've got,
Right,
you know,
right lower back.
wait, holy cow, what'd I do?
You're right there.
Right lower back.
Mm-hmm.
So right lower back, I'm leaning towards, that's my guess would be that that's probably an anger issue. And you're going to look to digest then, to digest the emotions, to help the gut and the liver. That would be my instinct reaction without checking that. But that's just because I do so much with low back. So that's not with looking at the meridians or anything. But I can.
Well, I was just wondering if there was, you know, how do you try to figure out whether the pain is just physical, or if it's something that's an emotional?
Well, and that's, you know, I mean, that's
how do you get to learn that? How do you figure out that voice, you know?
Pay attention. You have to learn to pay attention and stop and listen and pay attention to what you've got going on in yourself. So I do that with devotions a lot. You know, journaling is a great way to do it. You know, and just truly studying the body. You know, I mean, looking up these maps, and I mean, you guys don't have to be a doctor to look these things up. I mean, they're all over Google, right? Everybody's Dr. Google nowadays. So you can look these up and see what meridians go through where. You know, I mean, it's like people are just like, oh, my knee hurts. And I'm like, oh, well, that's too general for me. So, you know, are we talking front of the knee, back of the knee, inside of the knee, outside of the knee? Is it deep inside, or is it more on the surface, you know, and all the things? You know, because I mean, maybe that's muscle related. Maybe it's muscle pain. That muscle, I mean, you've got several different muscles that attach to the knee. Some of them are related to the large intestine. Some of them are related to the reproductive system. Some of them are related to the adrenals. So then you kind of look at, okay, so where's that coming from? And those are the systems that we look at supporting at that point. So, and gallbladder. Sorry, I forgot gallbladder. That's in there too. So, so.
Awesome. Well, Dana, thank you so much. I think this is a really fun call because so often you learn the process of listening to your body because it was screaming at you.
Right.
right? Like that's sometimes one of the first things as we go, oh my gosh.
Yep.
One thing that I'm really working really hard to do every day at some point is to meditate. And my yoga instructor really encouraged me to meditate with nothing. Like it's great to listen to something, you know, or some kind of guided thing. Those are all fantastic. But just literally lay on the floor and close your eyes and be with yourself for 20 minutes. Like it's amazing what can happen in that process. And I've noticed that's times when I do hear my body whisper, you know? So I dig it. I'm going to kill the recording and then we'll take a couple questions.